I will continue to harp on with what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to bridge this gap. Like I've said before, I'm trying to bridge this gap between, there's really good football stuff out there with clinics and with just football stuff that's rich in knowledge, and you know that they know what they're talking about. But then there's this other side that there's this really well produced football content that is entertaining and I love, but a lot of times it lacks the depth of knowledge with actual
level
football content. It's surface level stuff. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Left Hash Call, and welcome to a little bit different episode. Normally, you are used to us talking to coaches all around the country, from all the way up to the highest levels of college football and the FBS level, all the way down to high school and Division III coaches. But like many of those coaches out there in the world, we are on vacation. At least I am. Dan is still at home, but first of all, before we get this thing rolling, I just want to say thank you to everybody that has engaged with the show, has watched the show. We have some incredible plans moving forward, and it is because of you. It is because of those of you that interact with and share and help grow this show that we are able to continue to make cool stuff in this space, and we look forward to continuing to do that. But without further ado, the man that's been joining me as usual is an author, an entrepreneur, just launched Chalk, which has just blown up all over the college football world. Play caller, Coach Dan Casey. What is going on, man?
Man, it's been a whirlwind 6 months, but we've been having fun, man. We've been doing some really cool things together, and have a lot of exciting things planned for the summer and fall for sure.
It has been crazy, and I want to talk about that a little bit because we so often, so this show is definitely designed to be about the guests, and that is definitely what we want this to continue to be, and it's what it will continue to be. But I sometimes think many don't even know like who I am or who you are, and they're like, why should we care? Like this guy that posts tweets, like this guy that tweets, like why should I care? But it truly has been special to get to know you, and as well as your family. Been down to Houston once, and the story of how we met, and I'll give my perspective first because it is a fun story. But when I was down at the AFCA convention, I was there just repping Left Hash Call. I wasn't a part of a team. I wasn't where I am now with Drake, and we essentially was going through the aisles down at the vendor floors, and I just saw someone post a picture of you with you, and I'm like trying to like figure out, I'm like, what is he doing? Where is he? And because I'm like, man, I gotta go meet this dude, and so walked right up to you, and then it seemed like you had recognized me from some of the stuff that I had done, and I just obviously said I was such a big fan, loved what you're about, and man, it just felt like we hit it off, and then we started chatting about projects and like how there's so many different things that we could do, and I chatted about how I feel like I'm trying to bridge the gap between good football content and well-produced football content, trying to bridge the gap, and feels like we just hit it off. But I'm curious, like, what was your perspective on how that whole thing went down?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's such a good reminder, I think, that so many things in life are timing based. It's like, I was working on a few projects and I hadn't been able to nail the creative side of it. And, when we met, it was just kind of perfect timing. But I think what's important to remember for a lot of the coaches that are listening is, your resume or your portfolio or whatever you want to call it, like precedes you. So it's like, the work that you put in sometimes feels like it goes unnoticed, but when the timing is right, it really does. It's noticed. And I think for you, Seth, like I had seen from afar some of the things you were working on, and obviously it was kind of in smaller school football, Division III, but it was really high quality, and I could see that you attacked those projects with the same intensity that I was attacking some of these other projects. And so I think, if there's a lesson to be learned in any of it, it's like you just never know when the timing is right, whether it's getting a coaching opportunity, getting a business opportunity. I think the most important thing is like keep honing your skills, keep practicing your craft, keep sharing what you're doing. And then you never know like what kind of synergy may come along. And, the timing was perfect, but then obviously I feel like you were just so ready for that opportunity of like, hey, let's rock and roll. And it's been a crazy 6 months. We've gotten to do some really cool things. We've gotten to interview some amazing coaches. And then we've also been able to be boots on the ground at Texas Tech and Kentucky and some other places. And it's like, man, we've done some really cool things, and we're just scratching the surface of what this can be. But I think it goes to show you that you were prepared for the opportunity, and when it came, you let it rip.
Yeah, it truly is. It's one of those deals where it's stay ready so that when your best is needed, you're ready for whatever opportunity comes your way. And it's totally true about the coaching profession, and it's so true just about relationships and how you go about your business. And if I would have come up to you and I was an a-hole, like it probably wouldn't have went very well. But it's just trying to be approachable, being a good dude, I think isn't like an underrated quality at times. And so, but no, it has been crazy. And I remember the first time, like you're like, hey, you want to go to Texas Tech and see Mac? And I'm like, yeah, like I do want to do, like that is incredible. And like just like looking back, and we'll talk about it here in a minute of some of the stuff we've been doing there, but like running wind sprints with Mac Leftwich at 5 a.m. is something that I will never forget.
You'll always remember that moment.
No
always
doubt.
Remember that moment. But I think what's interesting is you may have. I'm trying to remember as I go back through. I think we were communicating a little bit over DMs on Twitter, and I was like, oh man, I think this guy had DM'd me a couple times, and I'd never seen it. I'd never responded. But I think from your perspective, it's like, oh man, this guy, big timed me. He didn't respond to me but the reality was like I never even saw it. But then but I had seen some of your other stuff. And then when we finally got a chance to connect, I was able to put the dots together. And, for me, I know like I've talked to a lot of coaches that are like, so-and-so ghosted me, so-and-so, whatever the case may be. The reality is like coaches and people in the football world are so busy. A lot of times it's nothing personal. It's like, for whatever reason, the timing just didn't work out right. And I just have so much respect for people that continue to persist in pursuing connections and genuine kind of networking opportunities. And you just never know when the timing might be right. So for all the young coaches, particularly out there that are, shooting your shot, keep shooting your shot because, and just don't take things personally. Like keep it moving, keep it rolling. I was talking to a coach recently that had interviewed for a job, didn't end up getting it, but then ended up going and visiting that staff the next spring and spending some time with them. And I was like, man, I have so much respect for somebody that instead of saying, man, I'm going to get in my feelings and they didn't pick me for this job. Like they didn't hire me. Instead of that, he was like, no, I'm going to maintain connections. And I was like, that's a guy that's going to be successful in this business. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but you're going to be successful if you have that mentality. Excuse me, that mentality.
One thing my head coach now Drake has told me is, or told every team and every staff I've ever been a part of is be nice. It's the scene from Roadhouse when he's telling everybody to be nice, and it's true. Like the moment that like you think that like someone's big dogging you, or you think that someone's ghosting you, and then you take that personally and you go, let's say you tweet something, I'd be like, yeah, Coach blank, like that's the end of that relationship. You never know what's going on behind the scenes. And the more that you are just nice to people, like, man, there's been a lot of times where like I've just wanted to blow up on somebody because like they didn't do something the way I wanted them to, or like they were kind of a jerk at first. But like if you just continue to just be nice, like literally it's another underrated quality, just be nice, and you'll you probably won't regret being nice in some of those scenarios. But
don't burn bridges, man. Just keep it rolling, stay connected. You never know when those paths may cross and it's the right thing.
So we put out on Twitter and Instagram as well a little bit of a different segment here, and that's our first edition of Mailroom. And I want this thing to grow. We're gonna do some different things with this in season, potentially with some film breakdowns of some of your guys' film that we're gonna watch. But just to tease that a little bit, but we said just essentially just did a mailbag, a mail room, and we asked you to send us some of your questions, and we got some good ones here that I'm excited to talk about. Couple of them are from Mikey Schultz. He's a good buddy of mine, very active in the Division III football space. But his first one that he sent in was, in all seriousness, rank these positions based on importance on defense, which I appreciate. This is great. So rank these positions based on how important they are to their respective defenses. The fifth DB in a 4-2-5, the middle linebacker in a traditional 4-3, the nose in an odd front, or a corner on a red zone Tampa 2 call.
Oh man,
pretty solid, I think.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I right off the bat, like a Mike in a traditional 4-3 just feels like the tough, gritty answer. But I also feel like if you get a crappy nose and an odd front, you're probably gonna be really bad. Like you're probably just gonna be really bad.
Yeah, I think I always go with the upfront guys. I mean, I just think everything stems from there. Like if you're getting pushed around up front, it's a real problem. And I think back to like some of those iconic 3-4 defenses where, especially when Belichick had it rolling in New England, when you have a guy like Vince Wilfork who's playing that 2 gap, basically locking down both A gaps, like it allows you to do so many other things where you maybe don't need an elite pass rusher because you're creating one-on-ones and, you don't necessarily need to commit the same type of resources in the run game. So I would say maybe least important, if I'm remembering the question right, is probably that corner in Tampa 2 in the red zone because you can kind of hide a guy like that. I don't know if you want to play a ton of like true Tampa in the red zone because it can create some gaps for you. But yeah, I'm going to go number 1, the nose in an odd front, man. If you can take up 2 gaps, you're cooking.
I would probably agree. Like I'd probably say that nose in the odd front, and then I'd probably put that Mike in a 4-3. It's the same thing. Like they are more than likely filling that A gap pretty much every single play, at least opposite the shade. And so I think that's just so important. And then the 50 being a 4-2-5, like depending on how you play your 4-2-5, like how we played it at River Falls is like that the middle safety always travels, and so he always just stays high. And so, and he typically ends up playing more of a Sam linebacker spot more than often. And so, like that, I would say that is probably not as important as those other two, but still important to say the least. Now, this next one is free.
I do think with the 5th DB, this is an interesting caveat to that. Like if you're talking about the NFL, where you can create matchups on a weaker DB with your 3rd or 4th receiver, then you're talking about like from a matchup perspective. I just don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze in the same way at like the high school level or the college level. Like, are you really going to have egregious matchup mismatches at that position? Maybe not. I don't know. And so I think you can. My personal opinion in high school is like you design your defense or your offense around who you want to hide and who you want to highlight. So some guys like, offensively, it's like, I want to hide my center. There's ways to hide your center. He doesn't have to be the best player in the world, but there are certain positions that are harder to hide. I think 5th DB in a 4-2-5, you can get away with some stuff. You can hide that guy, not perfectly, but you can a little bit. And so I don't think you can hide a nose. You're just going to get manhandled.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like in the NFL, like some teams you might call it like a 4-2-5, but really it's like just nickel for them essentially. And
exactly. And a lot of them base out of nickel anyway.
And I'm thinking about like Mike Hilton for the Steelers back in the day or the Bengals. Like that dude could affect the run game. He could affect the pass game, like from a rusher's perspective, but he also was a lockdown nickel corner. And so that like, it's just so different when we're talking about even high school to small college football than to the NFL. Like it's so different based on how you do that. And so, but yeah, like we said, the mic and the nose, like especially the nose, like you're gonna suck if you got a bad nose. Next question here, and this one's just for Danny. Apparently, Mike didn't want to ask me this either, but if you turn on a random Division III football game, teams you have no idea who they are, equally matched teams running a very similar scheme. Team A has a first-year OC, 25-year-old OC, and Team B has an OC with 25 years of experience. Do you think you'd be able to tell which is which? And if so, what sort of tells would you be looking for?
Yeah, I think young OCs tend to get in more third and longs typically because they're maybe trying to do too much and taking some negatives. I think the more experienced OCs tend to take less negatives in their play calling. You see, it's not perfect, obviously. Like there's so much of that is dependent upon the personnel and especially the quarterback position. But I would say if I were just watching the game and I didn't know who was who on the OC perspective, I'd be like, all right, who's in the most third and longs? That's probably the young guy.
I
I
love
know
that.
for myself, I was a disaster as a young OC, getting in a lot of third and longs and trying to drop back past my way out of it, and it was a bad deal. And so I learned a lot as I grew and developed as a play caller, and was like, man, I can't put my guys in these positions. These are not winning positions. So
As a non play caller ever, I probably won't answer this question because I don't really know. Honestly, like I'm not going to try to answer a question I don't know the answer to. But I think you're
the
probably
young OC,
right.
the young OC is also probably going to run some trick plays that haven't been practiced enough, and that kind of stuff. So
Right. Yeah. No, I agree
you'll
with
see it.
that. If you see failed trick plays, it's probably a good sign that it's a young guy.
There's no doubt.
Last one we got here is what should I be doing now? This is from Zach Burge. This is on Instagram. What should I be doing now for a career in football beyond just being a student assistant?
Ooh,
We kind of answered this one a little bit in the open here.
a little bit, yeah. I think modern football, you have access to, or potentially have access to, so many different resources, and I think you have to start building a portfolio. And when I talk to coaches about building a portfolio, it's don't send coaches your resume. Send them a project you've worked on. Send them, whether it's diagrams or PowerPoints that you've put together, a clinic you've put together, film study you've done, breakdown data, whatever the case may be. Like you should be presenting them with a project. You should not be presenting them with your resume, because how am I supposed to know? Like, oh, you were a student assistant for this coach. What did you do? What can you do? And so
Right.
demonstrate your skills. That's the most important thing. And if you can distill information into something that's visual and usable, coaches are going to want you. And the biggest thing I will tell young coaches is your role as a young coach early on. And I didn't realize this because I was like, it's about my ideas. It's about, the things I know. Your job early on is to take things off the head coach's desk. Do not put problems on the head coach's desk and ask him to solve them. Try to find ways that you could take work away from the head coach, away from the coordinator. Hey, I noticed you don't really like doing this. Can I do that? And that's a way to just instantly provide value for people. Don't wait to be asked to do certain things. Be proactive. And the reality is, like, I know I've talked to so many head coaches and coordinators over the years. They are so busy and their brain is so full that they don't have time to think through describing and telling you exactly what your job is. Like, you have to really be proactive and be assertive and say, what does it look like this guy just doesn't enjoy doing? What is bogging him down? How can I help? And if you're thinking in those terms, chances are you're going to be way ahead of 99% of the profession, because everybody else is thinking about, all right, what does this guy want from me? Does he like me? Will he take me with him to his next spot? Like, don't think about any of that. Just make his life easier and you will be valuable.
I love that so much because I think as a young coach, like sometimes you want to like feel important and that you
Yeah.
want to ask for more things. But I think an important part of a coach's season and a coach's career is when you're going through the interview process, ask those questions. Like when you're
Yep.
getting in with this, be like, hey, what are the things that make your life super hard and how can I help with that? And I think it's also just, it goes back to the Belichick, just do your job. Like whatever the job is, do your job. And I also think like if you're looking to move up in this profession, I think leverage the connections that you already have, in not a pushy or forward way. In that, like, don't just go ask a big time FBS coach, like at the ASCA convention, like, coach, I'd love to work for you. Like, I think that's a horrible way to go about it, because like this coach is going to be like, yeah, you and 500 other guys,
Totally.
go up and
Totally.
ask him a legit question. Coach, hey, like, I loved what you guys did this year for this. How did you come up with that? Or ask to go down in clinic with somebody, learn from them, versus, because if they see you and you're actively trying to learn and you're getting in front of them in a way that's not like super, aggressive. And, I think it's also okay to be aggressive, but if you're just going in there guns a-blazing and you're like, I want to work for you, coach. Like, I'm a hungry, motivated individual. Like, yeah, so is everybody that's at the
Everyone
ACA
is.
convention. Like,
Everyone
everybody's
is.
like that.
Yep.
And so I just think, try to go about that way. Try to go about that in a learning, productive way. And also, like you said, bloom where you're planted. In that, make the big time where you are. Don't necessarily worry about chasing the next job. I made that mistake early. I mean, like, I wanted to just keep moving and keep learning from different
Yep.
places. But man, just worry about where you are, and those opportunities will come to you eventually. Like Coach Walker, for example, at Drake, like, he was at River Falls for 15 years before he got an opportunity
It's
to go to
crazy.
Division 1, and it took
It's
him winning a
crazy.
national championship. And so the opportunity came eventually. So, thanks for the questions. We're definitely going to do more stuff like that here in the future. But before we get into some future projects, Coach, I want to talk about a project that you've been working on for a long time, a project that you just launched in Chalk. It has been very fun to see the behind the scenes, how you've operated as an entrepreneur. But I want to hear from your perspective. How did this start? What are you excited about going forward with it? And also, why did the coaching world need a product like this?
Man, I mean, this project probably kicked off a couple years ago, and honestly, it was a failure at first. I learned a lot because, you know, I'm I'm a football coach. I'm not a web developer. I'm not an app developer. I'm not, I'm not. I'm technologically aware, but not necessarily like super proficient. And so for me, I was like, man, I would just love to be able to draw plays on my iPad. Like I use my iPad all the time as a coach, and I know so many coaches listening are probably like always on good notes, taking notes on the iPad. I have just like folders upon folders upon folders of notes I've taken in good notes. And I love that app. But I was like, man, the one downside is I can't create vector drawings out of this. I can't create Visio quality drawings on this good notes app. It's, I have to take the notes I've taken over to my PC and, go through the Visio process. And honestly, for me, like getting into the coaching world, especially as a young high school coach, I was like, man, I'm trying to sharpen up my skills. I took courses online of how to use Visio and how to draw plays and how to put a playbook together. And I spent a ton of time doing it. I'm like, man, the learning curve for this is huge. And yes, it was always just seen as like what you needed to do to be a coach. You needed to figure out how to use this program. And then really, last October, I think it was October, I got an email from Visio and they said, hey, we're discontinuing support for the program. We're not going to have any new features, no security, nothing like, we're basically saying goodbye to Microsoft Visio. And I was like, oh man, okay, well, every coach in America is pretty much on this, especially at the FBS level and the NFL level. So, okay, how do we attack this problem? I still really wanted to be on the iPad. I wanted to create vector drawings. And that's really what led to Chalk. It was like, man, Visio for iPad. Like that was just the phrase that we kept coming back to. And it's certainly not perfect. There's a lot of things we're still working on and building. And the cool thing is just getting the amount of feedback we've gotten from coaches. I think they know that I'm on this thing every day, like every single day. I'm diagramming plays. I'm sending out emails. I'm posting stuff. And I really created it selfishly for myself first and foremost, because I was like, man, this is something I use every day. I want to enjoy the drawing process, the diagramming process. And, I think some coaches, they get to a point in their career where they're not actually in the programs diagramming the plays. They can just write it up on the card and hand it to the GA. I don't have a GA right now. I have to draw it myself. And so I wanted to make that process more enjoyable. And I've had, so many different, FBS and NFL OCs text me and be like, it's fun to draw on this thing. And so it's been a really cool process. The reception's been amazing. And we're going to actively make it better. I think that's the biggest thing is like, I used to create things and then I would put it out into the world and then I would get feedback and I would get really, my feelings would get hurt when I would get criticism for things. And the more I've grown as a coach, as a person, as an entrepreneur, I've realized that feedback is actually the greatest gift that somebody can give to you. If they're going to say, hey, this sucks about this thing you built, you have a chance to go make it better and make it suck less. And so I think it's been really cool. That's been part of my growth and development. And even as I think about, being back on the grass and back in a coaching role, I'm excited for the feedback that's coming for me to like really quickly iterate and improve and grow and learn as a coach. And, I think that's, we go back to the beginning of this conversation, right? It's like, don't take things personally, like just keep getting better. And I think if you're doing that in life, like you're going to be successful. It may take some time, but you're going to be successful.
It is a fun part of entrepreneurship that, if you take the feedback how you should, the customer's literally telling you how to make it better. Like they're
Exactly.
literally telling you what to do.
Yes.
And it might come across as like, this sucks, but like, all right, what sucks? Like what sucks about it?
Yep.
And I can tell you right now, my experience with Chalk has been anything but suck. It has been awesome. And of course, like I know I appreciate and love how you guys continue to be like, all right, well, but what don't you like? Like I remember
Yep.
that was one of the first questions you asked. Were like, hey, just when you first opened it for the first time, what didn't you like about the user experience? And I love that. And I truly believe it's a revolutionary thing, and it's going to be a thing that people are using for years to come. And I know there's a lot of things behind the scenes still that are going to continue to be announced, and I'm super excited for that. But another thing that I want to chat about is our Go to Work With series that we just
Yes.
launched with Coach Stein. As the producer of this particular program, it's funny, and people seems to be they love it, honestly.
Oh yeah.
And it's been really cool to watch. And it's funny, admittedly so, when we first did this, we ended up going to two schools, one of them being Kentucky, and we have talked about this a lot, that like we didn't even know what we were doing. Like we didn't really know what we were gonna film, or what was this gonna look like. And I think it, really, I'm gonna be honest, like it was just getting trust from Coach Stein, trust from that staff, that we weren't gonna that we were gonna just show what they actually do, like, and which is like Coach Stein is the absolute man, and we
Awesome.
pulled the cameras out and we started rolling, and that is truly like, this is an authentic look at what this program is like on a daily basis. And Dan, I want to hear your perspective on this, but as someone that created this, as far as the physical execution of making it, man, it was so much fun to make.
It was a blast to make. When we started kind of putting the idea together, I'm such a nerd when it comes to like anything, inside access. I've probably watched every episode of Hard Knocks 5 times. I mean, I've watched every show on Amazon Prime. I've watched all the YouTube videos. I mean, there's some like iconic, like I have a list of iconic day in the lives with Cliff Kingsbury at Texas Tech and Chris Peterson at Washington driving his boat into work. I'm such a nerd when it comes to that. And so there was a precedent, like, but we didn't want to do a day in the life. We didn't want to do some like super curated thing. We wanted it to feel like you were in the room for the really interesting parts of what a football program is, like sitting in on a quarterback meeting with Joe Sloan. And it's like, all right, how do we sit in on a quarterback meeting with Joe Sloan without giving everybody all the information about what Kentucky's running next year?
Right.
That was part of the challenge, right? How do we feel like we're there, but also respect these coaches and their process and their IP, their intellectual property, of like making sure we're not giving anything away. So like, you see the film is all blurred out, the whiteboards are all blurred out, and we had to kind of cut the even some of the talking so that you couldn't really tell what they were doing. And so it was a delicate dance, right? And I thought you did such a good job with the edit of being respectful to these coaches while also giving people a behind the scenes view. And, and just in talking with people since it's come out, like it is different than a typical day in the life. It is a little bit more immersive, and that's really what we're going for. Like, obviously their fans are going to enjoy it, and we want that, but we really want coaches to watch it so they can know what it feels like on the inside of the building at the University of Kentucky, and they can get the feeling of what that staff camaraderie looks like, what that quarterback room looks like, what the, you know, just hearing coaches coach. I think that's one of the things we don't get enough of is everything outward facing from a lot of these programs is kind of your curated media sound bites and kind of the talking points. And I think what people really want is to hear elite coaches coach. And
Mhm.
I'm obsessed with hearing coaches coach. And I feel like I learn something every time I visit one of these buildings where I pick up a phrase, I pick up something where I'm like, I'm going to incorporate that into my lexicon, my approach. And so it's an exciting project because essentially the idea was like I try to visit, you know, as many programs as I can every off season. And this was the first time I brought a camera with me, first time ever. And so I was like, man, I've had these amazing experiences with all these incredible coaches that have been so gracious with opening the door to me. How can I give back a little bit and showcase just what incredible people and coaches and husbands and fathers they are? And, you know, Will Stein was a great person to start with because I have just a ton of respect for him, who he is as a person, as a coach. And so it's just a way to almost say thank you for the amount of access that he's given me over the years, for sure.
And it truly is like, there wasn't one moment where like, and again, like we got to shout out Coach Stein for this, but like there wasn't one moment where Coach Stein was like, yeah, don't like get out of here. Like truly like what you saw is what you was what actually happened the one day in, I think it was April that we were there. And it was really cool and there was very little, I would say, like cuts. Like we didn't cut a lot. Like we really didn't. Like we
Totally.
showed you what
Totally.
happened. And just so grateful to be able to work on projects like this. And man, the feedback from the community, like there was one, I think somebody from On Three was said, like, I don't typically like this stuff. Like I don't like the day in the life stuff, but this was sick. And I appreciate them for saying that because like
No doubt.
it
No
truly
doubt.
wasn't supposed to be like a day in the life. It was supposed to be like an immersive experience inside a high level football program. And I'm so excited to release our next one and continue to film these because I think they are they are probably one of my favorite pieces of content that we have created so far and it is going to continue to grow. So
No, for sure. And we're gonna continue to get better and sharpen our
of course,
process, obviously. But I think the main thing is like we don't want to bring a whole crew into your building and be disruptive. Like I think
no.
Seth, one of your superpowers is like your ability to be discreet and not, you know, have the camera shoved in everybody's face all the time. And I think, you know, just making these coaches comfortable. So I guess I will say like just a little PSA, like if you're a coach who is genuine and authentic and you want people to see an authentic look at your team and your culture, we'd love to come work with you on that. If you feel like you have something to hide as a coach, we probably don't want to be there. You know what I mean? And so like
Honestly.
we are pursuing guys that are authentic, genuine, and that want to showcase like what their program's really like. So I'm excited about this project and there's much more to come for sure.
You know, another project that we've been working on this show specifically is the state of the program, and you know, this really originated from when River Falls was in the national championship, and I wanted to essentially like create like a late night TV version of the show where I would go in, and we would talk to every single coach that I could in a very concise manner, and we had every coach from River Falls come on for 15 minutes at a time.
It's awesome.
And that certainly is where this started. And now being like, we made the jump from Division III to like Coach Leipold at, Kansas. And, we got Coach Leipold, Coach Kaldanecki, and Coach Zabrowski in a very similar format. And the format and how we do this thing, that's going to continue to grow. And I got to say thank you to Coach Walker for getting me in touch with Coach Leipold and Coach Kaldanecki and Jim Zabrowski for allowing me to do that as well. And it was just such a blast to see them operate. And also just, I think as we do this show more, like the Zoom stuff and the what we're recording on now, Riverside, like it's awesome and I love it, but there is nothing like
Can't beat it.
like being on on campus and being boots on ground, because also it's so fun because like being able to not just talk to the head coach. Like we love talking to the head coach. Like that's a big part of why we're there. But being able to talk to like 10 different coaches in 15-minute segments, like that is the goal of the state of the program. Like this was kind of V1 of state of the program, and we certainly I'm certainly proud of it. But I'm telling you, it's going to continue to evolve, and Dan and I are going to be boots on ground, and more schools doing a similar format of that. But man, it was a fun thing to see so far, and I'm excited to continue to do that.
Yeah, I think you do such a good job with that format and making people feel comfortable and getting them to open up. And I think the big thing about, the state of the program is obviously the head coaches are great, but we hear from the head coaches a lot in college football. I want to hear from the coordinators. I want to hear from the linebackers coach. I want to hear from these guys that are really in the room every day molding these guys, molding these teams. And ultimately, like, one of the tricky parts about being in the coaching profession is this idea of like, all right, I'm a talented coach. I'm ready to take the next step in my career. And there really aren't a lot of forums where you can showcase your ability. And obviously, like, team success is the biggest one, obviously. Like that's not going anywhere. Team success is the key to rising in this profession. But I do think as well, being able to have a longer form conversation with a football person that wants to hear what you have to say, it creates opportunities, right? And one thing that's tough about the coaching profession as well is like you can't really self-promote. Like it is tough to promote, but like sometimes when you have media stepping in and they're saying like, hey, I want a soundbite from this guy, it turns into almost like a clickbait type thing. And so you're getting a soundbite from one of these guys, and it may go well, it may go poorly, but what we're envisioning is you have a chance to sit down for 15, 20 minutes on the longer form side, maybe 45 minutes with us, and we get to talk football. We're not talking about NIL. We're not talking about the landscape of college football. We're talking about how you fit counter, stuff like that.
I love
and
that.
so I think that is an opportunity for coaches to showcase their knowledge, their charisma, their personality. And I think it's needed. I think it's needed because there's so many talented coaches that are deserving of opportunities, and maybe just not enough people know about them.
Well, and the current landscape of college football, as we just say, we're not talking about the current landscape, but truly the current landscape of college football is, at least in the highest levels, the head coach is truly the CEO of $100 million organization. Like that is kind of what Coach Sloan described and go to work with. And it's true. He is the CEO, and part of a CEO's job is to hire really good people. And we often hear from the CEO, but we don't hear from the guy that's actually
the really good people they hire.
The really good people that they hire. And so it's, like you might say, well, oh, that's all Coach whoever, but like, man, but he also hired them. He hired that coach to do this job. And that means that if this really good head coach, or CEO, we'll call him, hired this really good football coach, like, man, I want to hear from him. Like, I want to hear from people on Coach Leipold's staff, because he's a great leader. He's a great coach. But like, I want to know, like, why does he keep Coach Zabrowski around for so long? Because he loves him and he's such a good coach. Like, why did he want Coach Koldenecki to come back, like, after he left to go to Penn State for a year or for 2 years? Like, I want to know that stuff. And it's clear and obvious. Like, once you start talking to these guys, why? And so next, I want to chat about like both of our current happenings in our coaching world. Obviously, you're not currently with a team at the moment, but I want to hear, Coach, for those that may be wondering, like, what is next for you in the coaching profession, other than like changing the game essentially through chalk and all these other good stuff?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think for me, I coached high school football for 10 years. I was a head coach for a while, an offensive coordinator for a while. Absolutely loved that. And, as it's part of like the unintended consequences of growing, what I've grown is that I had so many opportunities to travel and meet people and do all these things that I really didn't feel like I was giving a fair amount of time to the high school that I was coaching at. And so I really had to make the tough decision to step off the field and be able to pursue some of these things, which has been awesome. The last couple of years, I've had such a blast getting to travel all over the country, meet all these people, and also take my kids to school and pick them up and, spend a lot of time with my kids as they've grown up a little bit. And, for me, the goal is always the grass. I mean, to be back on the grass for me, it's always about the people. You hear a lot about job titles, the money, the prestige of certain places, but really at the end of the day, it's like, do you wake up every day and enjoy the people you're working with? And so for me, I know that step is coming to get back on the grass, but at the same time, I want to be a good steward of the of the resources I have and the opportunities I have, and try to make things for people that are truly help them as they grow as well. And so we'll see what unfolds, but we're getting close. We're getting close.
I mean, I'm so excited for that next iteration of your coaching career. Obviously I know a little bit more behind the scenes, but there's hopefully some fun opportunities down the road for you. And
definitely,
one thing I have not talked about really my journey on this show, other than episode 1 that has 8 views. But I'm not gonna bore you with the whole thing. But my current role with Drake has been fun, and I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm a full-time coach, because that would be a disservice to my fellow colleagues down there that do continue to do such a good job with our team. And but it's very much so such a good opportunity for me, because it allows me to stay in the game in a capacity that allows me to still do this fun stuff and still do this. And so I'm the assistant quarterback coach and also the coordinator of creative content. And essentially what that means is I help with the quarterbacks. I help with little stuff, detail stuff, footwork, all that good stuff. And it's a unique opportunity because our offensive coordinator, Joe Matheson, is such a talented coordinator, and he didn't play quarterback. He's coached receivers for a long time, for 8 years. And he's very much so our big picture guy in that room, and that he's focused on reads. He's focused on how to execute the offense at a really high level. And then our head coach, Matt Walker, he coached the quarterbacks at River Falls for 15 years, essentially. And he's always coached quarterbacks. He played quarterback. And so he is in that room every day with us. And then me, I'm the only one that played in this offense that we currently run at Drake. And so I offer kind of my firsthand perspective of what it actually is like playing in that system. And so I'm just so grateful to Coach Walker and Coach Matheson that they have allowed me to kind of come and go as I need to, but I still love and love coaching, and I love being around the guys. But also, like the resources and the opportunities that we have right now to impact others and grow the game in different ways has been unbelievable. And some of the content that we've been able to create at Drake as well has been super
100%.
fun.
Absolutely.
And doing our hot ones or / hot pause videos, and some of our Sports Center commercials have been fun as well to create. And honestly, that goes back to Coach Walker just being like, yeah, do whatever you want. Just make cool stuff and don't make us look stupid. And I can't guarantee you it won't look stupid, but certainly just have tried to do cool stuff. So,
well, that's what's interesting about your role right now is it's very unique. Like, you're doing the creative side of things. You're also in the quarterback room. Like, a lot of times there's pretty clear delineations between, oh, you're just a creative person, or, oh, you're just a coach. Like, you don't have insight on this side of things. And what's cool about being with a D3 staff that has moved up to the FCS level is they are used to making the most of everything they have. They're used to allowing people to have different roles and responsibilities and access. And I have noticed that some of these D3 coaches that have moved up have been so successful because they know how to wear a lot of hats, and they know how to help others wear a lot of hats, and they give people a lot of freedom to do their best work. And I would encourage a lot of the young coaches out there, like, hey, you may have an opportunity to be a quality control coach at an SEC school or a GA or something like that. And that's a great opportunity. And if that's what you want to take it. But there's also some other opportunities you may have, like be a position coach at an FCS school, and you get to wear a bunch of hats and gain a ton of experience. And just keep that in mind, man. Like, work for the right people. Work for the right people that give you opportunities to do your best work. And I think that's a pretty good roadmap to success.
Before we wrap up, I want to talk about the future, not only of Left Hash Call, because we got a lot of good stuff, but also the future projects that we both have. Now, I don't want to give anything away, of course, because we haven't announced half of this stuff. But
totally,
when you look forward with what we do here on this show and also other projects down the road, what are you most excited about, and what, without giving anything away, what would you, I guess, tease the audience of what's coming with what we got going on?
Man, okay, I'm going to try not to spoil anything. I think the biggest thing for me is like an excuse to talk to people, man. Like an excuse to, obviously the podcast is great because it's like, man, I would love to spend 45 minutes with Taylor Mauser at Penn State, but I know he's busy. Yeah. But when you have a podcast format, like there's an opportunity where everybody wins because you get a great conversation about football. And we're all busy, but it feels worth it. But there's a lot of other things we're working on right now where it's just like, man, we get time and we get conversations and we get connections with some incredible people in the football world, both coaches and athletes coming soon. And we're just excited about being able to connect and really just go deep on football. Like at the end of the day, this is really it's not about clickbait at all. It's about going deep on football and getting to know people's story. I think, Seth, you do such a good job of knowing people's story. And then for me, I just want to dig into the football. Like, what do you love? What concepts do you like? What's interesting to you? What has caused you the most growth as a player, as a coach, whatever the case may be. And so I think just opportunities for connection and deepening our football IQ is going to be so fun this year.
I think for me, the thing that I will continue to harp on with what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to bridge this gap. Like I've said before, I'm trying to bridge this gap between, there's really good football stuff out there with clinics and with just football stuff that's rich in knowledge, and you know that they know what they're talking about. But then there's this other side that there's this really well produced football content that is entertaining and I love. But a lot of times it lacks the depth of knowledge with actual level football content. It's surface level stuff. So I'm trying to bridge this gap between high level IQ football stuff with really well produced things. And there's so many things coming down the pipe with I'm not going to say with who because it's coming, but there's I want to build a football media platform, not just an interview show. If that's all I wanted to do, then we would just say, hey, Dan, we made it. And so we got a lot of fun stuff coming. I'm grateful to do it with you. You're the absolute man. None of this would be possible without you. And this thing is going to continue to grow. And man, am I excited for the future of it.
It's going to be fun, man. Stay locked in with us. And again, like I said, if you want us to come swing by your program and give an inside view, if you have nothing to hide, if you're authentic, if you're genuine, if you're that guy, we would love to swing by.
I don't typically do the old like, subscribe, and all that good stuff that people say on YouTube channels, but I would just say, like, if this is some stuff that you appreciate and you enjoy, share this with somebody that might not already know about it. I appreciate if you'd subscribe and follow all of our social media platforms, but I'm not going to demand that of you. We just want to create good stuff and keep giving you what you deserve in the football world.
Amen to that.